15 seconds.
Till we start?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you can come over here and look and, you can try to find me some rubber bands. You can look in the...
5, 4.
I'm not in a good place. I can't see myself. Is it on? Good afternoon from AldermanFarms.
We're waiting on the picture to catch up.
Yeah, we're waiting to see.
We're hoping it's going somewhere.
Can anybody see anything?
Can y'all hear anything?
This is our first time.
First time trying the event.
Yeah. So.
Alright, it looks like we're probably on our main live, go live now thing. Hang on, let me check.
Patience, patience, patience,
Yeah.
huh?
I was worried about that for some technical reasons I won't get into here.
And I'm just standing here because we don't know if you can hear us or see us or what.
Yeah, doggone it. We're in the wrong place, Patti. Let me go back over here and tell everybody else where to find us.
Okay. Can anybody hear us or see us now?
Yeah.
We can't hear us or see us, so.
Yeah, hang on just a second, everybody. Let me direct the audience to where we are.
Yeah, we already have some people chatting somewhere. So I have to tell them where to find us where they can see too.
Alright, I've directed folks over there, so we're still, okay. Maybe I need to transition the camera.
That would be a good idea.
That would be a good idea. So that might have been the problem. Let me come over here and see what's happening. No. This is it's still not working on this page, so I'm gonna get rid of that. And here we are.
Hey there. Welcome to our sourdough tutorial, day by day. So today is day 1, and I'm going to be showing how to, eventually we want to start sourdough bread, not make sourdough bread, but we have to have a sourdough starter first. I want to tell you this, I realized today as I was doing a little studying and looking up different recipes and stuff like that, I've been saying that I use my Aunt Dossie's recipe, which is partially true. I didn't realize it wasn't all the way true. Aunt Dossie, with her starter, she starts it out with a cup of water, 3 tablespoons of potato flakes, and 3/4 cups of sugar. I remember when I changed from that, it was because I didn't want to use the potato flakes. I didn't want to use something that was that processed. And what the expense too with doing the farmer's market and everything. I want to try and keep my price down. So I had transitioned away from that. And my friend Therese, which I've learned so much from, she's my friend. She lives in Louisiana, and we just are our spirits just joined together. Anyway, she told me that she uses a cup of milk, a cup of flour, and a 1/2 cup of sugar. So I have transitioned from that to not use the milk because a lot of times we have raw milk, and I didn't know how, I didn't want to sell bread that I used raw milk on. So I transitioned from milk to water. So my starter is, I use water, flour, and sugar. But who was that? Grizzly Tommy that was saying that Grizzly. Yeah, she was saying that how she had made hardtack today with her excess starter. And that's the problem with when you're making your starter and you're starting to try and get it active and you're trying to just keep it going, you do end up with too much starter, and sometimes it's too much starter before it's ready to make bread, because you know I'm gonna be using this jar here. This is a wide mouth quart jar, and if I were to put a cup of water in here and a cup of flour in here and a half a cup of sugar, I mean, that's going to fill it way up to here. I wouldn't be able to feed it twice like that, because it will be overflowing the jar, not necessarily with bubbles, but with our ingredients that we put in here. The last time I made my starter, I used, tell me how to say, let's say this word again. E-I-N-K-O-R-N.
Einkorn. Einkorn wheat.
Because it starts with an E. I cannot say it right if I look at the word.
By the way, you have a viewer watching at 3 a.m. live in Australia.
Oh, wow. Hello from Australia.
Yeah, hey Tams.
But anyway, you know, this flour is very expensive. I bought it. It is an heirloom wheat. It has not been changed. It is low in gluten, and I have been gluten-free for over a year now, with some health issues and stuff like that. And so that's why I changed the way I start my sourdough starter. I don't start with a large amount, I reduce it down. So today, instead of starting with, I've looked at a bunch of different recipes. All of them are similar. You know, you're trying to catch wild yeast, you know, they have different amounts of flour and water or milk or sugar, and you know, a lot of them don't have sugar. So I'm going to make 2 starters today. I'm going to make one from just regular white flour, and I'm going to use this white flour. It's actually a bread flour that I use for the farmer's market. If I were doing this for my family, I would probably get the unbleached white flour from the store. And then I'm going to also use the einkorn flour, that in hopes, the last time I made the sourdough bread, I still reacted with it, but I did use wheat. And so I did use the yeast. And so it was more of a rapid rise rather than a longer fermentation of the rise and everything. So I'm going to try it one more time in hopes that I can eat it. If I can't, my family will eat it. And then this starter will be used for the farmer's market, the one I'm making with the white flour. So anyway, what I've done is I've reduced the numbers down. Typically you'd start with a cup of water. I'm going to start with 1/4 of a cup. And this is where I don't have to throw out starter. We may have to use it because a lot of times it'll say, you know, measure out half of it and just discard it, or you can make pancakes with it. But we'll talk about that later on if we get to the point where we have too much starter going before it's ready to make bread.
Had a question from Ever Cassandra, who
I thought you was telling me to talk louder.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, this wasn't from Ever. It was from the Self-Sufficient Life. You said you didn't want to sell bread made with raw milk and switch to water. So my question is, Self-Sufficient Life's question is, which is your own personal preference? Using milk or water? Well,
honestly, you know, if I thought, my friend Therese had told me that she thought it would make a richer bread using the milk. I honestly couldn't tell a difference. So I stick with water. That's why my own that I'm going to make my own bread with, I'm using water with it today too. So, you know, I really don't see that it makes a difference. And you know, a lot of times milk can be a very precious commodity on a farm. So, you know, I'm going to use just the water in it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to put 1/4 of a cup of water because I'm reducing it all down by 1/4. I don't know how to say that. Anyway. To fourths. Anyway, so I'm going to do 1/4 of a cup of water. And this doesn't have to be warm water. I mean, you don't want it to be cold water, but it doesn't have to be like you're fixing to make bread warm water.
So lukewarm, room temperature? Yeah,
room temperature is fine. And this, you're going to want your sourdough starter to be at room temperature. I read today and they said 80 degrees. My house isn't 80 degrees. It's, you know, 75 to 80, which you can kind of leave it close to a window or something like that. It's going to be warmer. So, you know, like that. All right, so I put 1/4 of a cup of water in each one. All right, I'm going to do my white flour here. And this is not, it doesn't have to be perfect. Here's my white flour, and then here's my einkorn. And this is, I get it from a Zoar Standard. Is where I've gotten this flour. And it's not a real dark flour. I really like the flavor that it gives. There's that. And then we're going to put 1/8 of a cup of sugar. Now, I don't have 1/8 of a cup over here, so I'm going to use 1/2 of a 1/4 on here. I'm just going to eyeball it, and that's good enough. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not going to hurt if it's a little less or a little more. Oh, that's right. I said I'm going to try this one without sugar and just see how the taste is, because I looked at a lot of recipes. A lot of recipes don't have sugar. So my einkorn, I'm going to try without sugar and just see how it goes with that. And then you're going to always want to use wood to stir with. And not metal. I have mixed up my sourdough bread in my KitchenAid mixer, and it's metal, but I don't ever leave it in there to rise or anything. I always take it out. So, and it's done fine. I actually, Redhead Homestead told me.
Yeah.
I watched a video. He did a video today. He makes sourdough bread, and he did a great job with the video, and he had beautiful bread. And I learned a lot from watching him. But he used his KitchenAid mixer also to mix it up, but he didn't rise it in it either. So.
Let me say something.
Go ahead.
Right quick, Pat. Patti mentioned that she bought that flour. It was the flour that you got from Azure?
Yes.
From Azure Standard.
Mm-hmm.
If you were with us live yesterday evening, we mentioned that. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description. Azure Standard is a buying club.
Mm-hmm.
I think
they also sell it at Amazon.
Oh, they do?
They do. They sell some einkorn. I believe I found it there.
Okay, we'll look and see. We'll look and see and let you know.
Okay, now I have this mixed up. This is the einkorn. I don't know. I'm gonna drip it if I take it out.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just
back up a little bit.
It's just kind of a paste, you know, in there. Same thing with the white. It's the same. And now, you know, we're done mixing up our starter. That's all we have to do for the ingredients. The next thing, I brought a paper towel here somewhere, I thought. Well, maybe I didn't. I was just going to make sure, I was going to dry off the top of my jars. Because, it's okay, Tommy, I'm good. They're not really wet. Because I use a coffee filter. Now you can use cheesecloth, just any kind of cloth, whatever, because you're going to want this to get air. You don't want to seal this because it is a fermentation process that's going to take place. And what I do is I take this and I forgot rubber bands or a ponytail holder. I've been using a ponytail holder lately and I like it better. But you're going to take that and you're going to put it around the top of this jar. And you're going to let it sit there till tomorrow. And we're going to come back and we're going to feed this again. I just want to let you know that I think I just said that we're trying to gather wild yeast that's in the air, that's all around. Like I said, I was doing some research and I got out my Encyclopedia of Country Living by Carla Emery. I love this book. And she talks about sourdough. And, you know, I remember doing in some of my research a while back, well, quite a few years ago, that a lot of recipes call for making a sponge. And then the next day, you make that up at night, then the next day you're going to add other ingredients to the sponge and then make your bread. That's not what we're doing with this. And if you've watched my other sourdough video, you'll see that I use yeast. I'm not using yeast. This is a true sourdough starter and true sourdough bread. I want to do that for me for the longer fermentation process. And you know, this is going to be fermented. When we make up our dough, we'll make it up in the evening or at night. It will rise all night, and then the next morning we will make our bread into loaves, and those will have to rise 4 to 6 hours most likely. At the most 8 hours. And during that time, there will be more of a fermentation process that takes place. And what that does is that will break down the gluten that's in the wheat. So
you might take a moment and explain that some of those rising times are going to vary by location, having to do with.
Well, that's right. It will. And you know, when I'm in the South, I'm in Mississippi, and so the cooler you are, which I don't think there's very many cool places in the United States right now, but I know we've got a listener in Australia, but I think, didn't we find out, even Alaska was pretty hot yesterday, 89, I
89
believe
degrees
Grandpa
yesterday.
said. But anyway, if it's very cool where you're at, it may take longer for your starter to be ready. And you know, Tommy had, when we talked about this and was throwing around this idea, he said, "Now, how many days is it going to take, or how long?" And I was like, "I don't know." And my starter might be ready. It may be bubbling up, doubling in size, and be ready to make bread. Yours may not be. You may have to wait an additional day. But the whole idea of doing this, it's nice if we can do everything step by step together. But if you have to wait a day or two to make your bread when it's time, that's okay. We just want your starter to be ready. And so,
yeah, because you don't want to start your bread before your starter's ready.
Right, because this is your yeast. I mean, you know, this is going to be your rising agent. We're not going to, now you could, when we go to make our bread, if you wanted to add yeast to it to make a lighter, fluffier loaf, you're welcome to do that. But in this video series, we're not going to be adding yeast.
So the other thing that affects the time it takes is also the population of wild yeast.
That's correct. That's correct. And I did read a little something about all the antibacterial cleaners and everything like that. That kind of diminishes because you have wild yeast on your counters. You just have it everywhere. And you can pick up bad yeast too. And that's what I was going to read in here, what Carla had wrote. Let's see. I already told you what we're doing is trying to catch wild yeast. And she says one of four things will happen. Nothing, in which case you try something different. Your mixture could have a moldy, awful smell, in which case you throw it out and try something else. Your mixture has a light color and looks foamy. Said it will leaven bread, but it tastes terrible. In that case, you've caught an effective yeast, but not one that tastes good. And of course, the ultimate is it leavens and it also makes tasty bread. I've had my starters go bad, and it's because I left it on the counter too long without feeding it. This is going to be live. It's going to be eating, the yeast will be, and I may not explain this exactly right, but it's going to be eating up what we're feeding it. We're feeding it the flour and the sugar. So, you know, that's what is going to help grow our yeast, our colony of yeast that will rise up, make bread rise. So anyway, I guess that's enough talking today. We can talk more tomorrow about some different things. Is there any questions, Tommy?
Yeah, go back and talk. Sherry and Arthur Power wanted to know, so don't you always mix starter with a wooden spoon because of a bad reaction with metal, or is that an old wives' tale?
Well, you know, I can't tell you whether it's an old wives' tale or not. I'm going to tell you, Carla Emery in Encyclopedia of Country Living, she said to use wood. My aunt Dossie said to use wood and, you know, like a glass bowl or something like that, not metal. And it's always been because of a reaction. So that could be an old wives' tale. I don't know. But I do use wood. So.
Maybe that's an experiment we need to do. I wonder what the reaction is supposed to be, because it might be something to do to see what happens.
Oh, I wanted to add too about your starter and everything. One thing, you know, it's going to smell like beer or whiskey or something. You know, that's the typical smell that I smell off of the starter. I have had it smell bad. I've had sometimes, like whenever, like say once we get through with the starter and we've made our bread, you know, if you want to put your starter up, you can put it in there, put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. And then and we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll continue our video series of putting our starter to bed in the refrigerator and then getting it back out and getting it active again. We'll show you how to do that. But I have left it in there 6 months and taken it back out and been able to reactivate it. I have left it in there 6 months and taken it out, and it just looked real yucky. That's why I am actually making a new starter of the einkorn. I have one in the refrigerator, but the liquid is black on top, and I just don't know if that's because it is a whole wheat or if it's kind of yucky now. So I'm going to start a new one. Anything else, Tommy?
Sherry and Arthur said thanks for answering. It's their understanding that it's supposed to kill the natural yeast, which it might.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Okay, we're close to signing off here. Let me look through here, see if I've missed any questions. Yeah, Green Gables had asked about if we'd ever tried using the sprouted flour because of the gluten intolerance, and I
Yeah.
said, and I typed and answered, I said, no, we haven't, but you're the umpteenth person who has recommended that,
Yeah.
so we may have to give it a try.
You know, this wheat's real expensive, and so that's why I went ahead and I looked at the price of it, because I do want to stay with this wheat. I understand that. I think if I say this right, you know, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not a real studied person. I've learned different stuff, so I can't always explain what I do. I do it because it works. But anyway, with this wheat, I think it said that it has like 13 chromosomes in it, and the wheat today, and wheat that I have bought that I thought was better for my family, which I think it is, because I don't think it has the chemicals, because it is organic, but it's still been changed a lot. It has like 46 or something like that, or maybe that's just regular store wheat. I don't know. But anyway, this is supposed to be the way God made it a long time ago when God made it. But anyway, that's why I bought it, and really the price difference in me having to grind it and it being already ground was you know, there was a big difference there. And also, that's why I went ahead and bought it. No, it wasn't a big difference. I can't remember. Anyway, but I bought this to try it.
Yeah, it wasn't a big enough difference to make it worth the effort.
To make it worth the savings to buy the wheat berries. But anyway, I had Carla Emery's daughter, how do you say the name of their place?
Falchematic.
Falchematic
Homestead?
Yeah, Falchematic Homestead. And I can't remember her first name. I've watched their videos.
I can't either.
But anyway, she's a real sweet person, and she has a sprouted wheat video that her friend actually made, and it's sourdough also, and that's what she said. It was because of health problems. So I believe if I cannot tolerate this bread the way we're going to make it in this series, then I may try that. I may go ahead and get me some wheat berries and try the sprouted wheat. That is a huge process from what I saw on that video.
Esther. Her name is Esther.
Esther.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right.
Thank you. That's right, Esther.
All right.
So,
Couple more questions. Grizzly, I'm going to come back to you. Billy Branch Homestead says, so we just let this set on the counter today.
oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, just leave it sit on the counter, and we'll come back and deal with it tomorrow.
Yep. And Grizzly's wondering if instead of water you could use beer. And you know, I mean, it's got yeast in it. I don't know.
Well, you know, I think that would work, but I think that would be a quicker starter. You know, just like if I were to add a tablespoon of yeast.
Yeah.
Grizzly, if you try that, watch it, because if it starts bubbling up a lot, you might would want to feed it again in 12 hours. Because see, a lot of times when it gets very active and everything, it eats up everything and it will die. It's living just like us. We have to be eating to be able to live. It's the same thing with our starter. It's got to have something to eat to be able to live. So by putting a tablespoon of yeast in there, or a teaspoon of yeast in here, it's going to start working quicker and eat up. If I were to use yeast today, I would feed it again this evening. I would feed it every 8 to 12 hours. With the way we're doing this, we're going to be feeding every 24 hours.
Yeah, Grizzly's going nuts. Thinking about apple cider now. You need to try some of that and see what happens.
Yeah, let us know.
Orphan Lady says, thank you so much for doing this for us sourdough newbies. We appreciate y'all so much. Well, the feeling is mutual. We appreciate you guys, because we'd be just sitting here talking to ourselves if it wasn't for y'all. We had no idea that we would be just a month ago. We had no idea that we would be doing this sort of thing.
Well, and you know, I want to tell you too, explaining how to do this is not a big deal. Where I think and you know, that it could be done in writing and with just pictures. I think that's not a big deal. Which Tommy would write it for me, because I'm not the big writer. But anyway, where I think it's a big deal and where I have trouble is when it's ready, when it's bubbly. You know, what's that look like? What's that? And of course, I can't show you what it smells like, but we can talk about what it smells like. And I feel like I can do a better job of explaining and showing you that. And then also, when it's time to make the bread, I remember being so overwhelmed about, you know, what a nice pliable dough. Well, what is that?
What does that mean?
You know, that has good elasticity. Well, what does that mean? Is it like a piece of elastic? If you've never done bread, you don't know what that means. So I'm excited to be able to show you what that means.
Yeah.
Because anybody can make bread. It's not hard. You know, it's not hard.
Well, we got a lot of folks, or several folks, that are doing it today.
Great,
Billy
great,
Grant
great.
said making some today so she can keep up with the videos.
Great,
And,
great.
You're welcome, Grizzly. Thank you, Sherry and everybody.
Yes.
My homesteading project. Kitty's Homestead says, love this, can't wait to watch the replay and take tons of notes.
Great.
We would encourage you to do that, and keep in mind that if I miss something, as you know, all you guys are probably YouTube Live experts.
We're learning.
Yeah. So in case you didn't know, when this video is over, the chat goes away. I mean, I think. But so
We can't find it anyway afterwards.
So what I'm getting at is, you can email us, of course, but I would prefer, if you have additional questions, that you would wait until the replay is live, and that you would come and comment under the video for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps the community because somebody else may have that question and not know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's nice if you ask the question publicly on the comment thread and we can answer it publicly so everybody can benefit from that. And the other part is a little bit selfish. It helps us. It helps the video. YouTube is looking for interaction on the videos, and so the more you like and comment and share and all that kind of stuff, the better it helps our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, yeah, just like the question about the metal, you know, of course that's answered in the video and everything.
yeah,
But you know, with it was on the chat also, which will be gone. So you know, it's nice for different other ones. You know,
Yeah.
they have the same question. So
that's right. And keep in mind, she didn't think of every potential question. Neither did you. Patty's doing this off the cuff. She's just that good. She didn't have to have a script or anything.
Well, I do it a lot. So, but I did forget my rubber band. So don't forget that. And like I said, I like ponytail holders. I've been using that. They seem to roll off a little better.
Yeah.
So the jars, and you don't have to use canning jars. You can use,
Mine too, AD. Sherry and Arthur Power said they have a confession that they love their bread machine. And Patti, you can talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Others have said they use a bread machine too. And AD Homesteading says, my wife is a bread machine.
I think, especially with the sourdough that I make with the yeast, I believe you could probably use the bread machine with that, especially like if you mixed it up and did a delayed something on there. But and I've run across a sourdough bread machine recipe. Didn't keep it because typically when I make sourdough, it's in such large bulk for the farmers market.
How many bread machines do you have?
I have about 5.
Yeah.
I need to sell them. I need to get rid of
I
them.
need to get rid of them. The reason she has so many is because she's really focused in on the farmers market
For sourdough.
For sourdough.
Yeah. I do make French bread, and I need to do a video on the French bread. But also, I've got a recipe for sourdough French bread that I would like to try that too.
But the reason she's got those bread machines is because as recently as last year, or did you do sourdough only last year?
I did mostly just sourdough. I think I started out with some other breads, but I would use my bread machines. I like waking up in the morning and my dough is ready. That's why sourdough is amazing to use, because I do a lot of different things with the sourdough. But I could set my bread machines and I could come over here in the morning and still go ahead and make bread. It just takes a lot less time when you're not waiting on your dough to be ready. And so I would do wheat rolls and wheat bread and white bread and the French bread I would do in a bread machine. And stuff like that. But Tommy bought me this good old KitchenAid right here, so that definitely is helps in mixing. But anyway, when we do mix our bread, I probably will mix some bread by hand, some bread with the bread machine, just where you can see both processes, because some people don't have the kind of mixer that can mix it up. My regular mixer that I have, it wouldn't mix up bread. So anyway,
Self-Sufficient Life. We're glad you found us. Just happened to find us by accident.
Oh, great.
And thanks for mentioning the name of the monster book, the Encyclopedia of Country Living.
Yes. I love my book.
Says they're always looking for resources. There will be a link in the description to our reading list. That book is on that reading list. It's all books that we have actually read. So, and read and support. We wouldn't have them in our reading list just because somebody told us about them.
But also, Tommy, I was just thinking when I was pulling out some of my books and looking at them. for this video, just refreshing my memory about sourdough and stuff like that, I was thinking, you know, that's something that we ought to do a show about, about the books that have been the most important to us.
Yeah, we may do that, because really, as I said, on that reading list, every book on that reading list is a book that we have read, appreciated, and applied. But there's a shorter section of that list, I would suppose, that are our go-to books time and time again.
And this, for sure, is one. And this one actually is my second one. It says over here, over 650,000 copies sold. I know that that's different. This is the 35th anniversary edition. I don't know how many years I've had this one, but my other one, I still have it. It's falling apart. So that's why I bought this one. So anyway,
right, well,
we've been going for 30 minutes now, and we need to run.
We're going to sign off, and we're going to do this again tomorrow. I'm going to try my best to figure out how to do an event again, but I make no guarantees. So we may have to do exactly what we did here today, start in the event and move over to the normal live page. I know it can't be that hard.
Tommy, let me say something right quick. I just thought about something. Get your canning lid. Band, not a lid. Get your canning band and just fit down over top of that. I don't know what I was thinking. I've thought about doing that before. I've seen it done before. Anyway, you don't have to use rubber bands. You can just do that.
How about that, folks? You're seeing innovation from AldermanFarms live.
I've seen it before, but I forgot about it. So anyway, all right, y'all have a great day. See y'all tomorrow at noon.